How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000, and in this video, we're going to focus on the next few potential snowstorms that could move through the northeast, where we could potentially see a winter storm pattern develop as we approach the later portion of March. But first, let's take a look at the GFS model forecast right now to see what's going on. We, of course, are seeing a heavy amount of rainfall right over the northeast at this time, and we do have a decent amount of cold air that's just behind it, which is part of the reason why we're going to see gusty winds headed into Sunday and Monday, where the cold and more densely packed air is going to, of course, want to move towards an area where the air is definitely a lot less dense, which will create wind as a result, and the winds will be strong, where you could see wind gusts anywhere between 40 to 60 miles per hour throughout the day on Sunday and going into Monday. But moving forward with the forecast from the European model, so if we were to take a look, the GFS model, so moving forward, we clearly see that eventually things should dry out for much of the United States by this point. We will see a pretty big ridge, and temperatures should feel very spring-like, as we're, of course, approaching that time period where the average temperatures should begin to rise very slowly in a lot of these areas, and it's going to definitely feel that way, where many areas of the Northeast and the East Coast in general will experience temperatures that are anywhere between 10 to 20 degrees above average. But moving even more forward with the forecast, we see that there's going to be a trough moving in through the Midwest, but our next potential winter storm pattern won't develop, I'll say, until the very late portion of March, where we clearly see that in the 12Z run of the GFS model, it wants to bring a pretty impactful winter storm, where we see that it's a powerful storm with its millibar pressure hovering around 990 millibars. There is a heavy amount of snowfall, especially on the northwestern side of this storm system, as this sort of occur right around Wednesday, March 20th. So it's definitely very far out. There's still time to really get the forecast a little bit more accurate, but the fact that both the GFS and the European model are at least indicating some sort of pretty significant jet stream dip developing right around the middle to late portion of March for the Northeast makes me believe that there is certainly a good possibility of some type of snow event that's expected to develop for potentially the Midwest and the Northeast. So this is a 12Z run. If we were to take a look at the 18Z run, however, the GFS model does subside on that scenario where the storm system is not as strong, but still brings a pretty decent amount of snowfall right over many areas of the Northeast, where you could easily see 3 to 6 inches of snowfall from a snowstorm like this. It might not be as significant as the one we just saw in the prior run, but certainly something to take note of in the Northeast, because this is still something that could be impactful. 3 to 6 inches of snowfall, you definitely don't want to underestimate it. But the key thing, of course, will be the amount of instability that will be right over the Northeast, and that will be determined by how much ridging we'll see just to the east of this storm system. And another thing too that will be key is this low pressure system right here, because if we were to take a look again at the 12Z run, this low pressure system moved a little bit more quickly, which means that these two low pressure systems converged a little bit more. And not only that, and when they converge, that of course creates pressure that's even lower, that creates a more impactful storm system that enhances the winds on the easterly side, to the point where the instability increases when we see two of these low pressure systems converge. And that is the reason why in the 12Z run, the GFS model was taking quite a powerful nor'easter by the time we approach the Tuesday to Wednesday time frame between March 19th and March 20th. So if we were to take a look back at that again, we see that that low pressure system that's parked right over New Mexico moves a lot more quickly, and it's due to the fact that the GFS model in that scenario expects less ridging to block it. So we see more of a straight line and drive right towards the East Coast, because if the ridging was a little bit too strong, then it'll have a difficult time being able to overcome it and move eastward very quickly. But in this scenario, we see that the ridging is nearly non-existent, so this moves a lot more quickly to the east. That enhances the easterly flow, the southeasterly flow, for the warm air to move a little bit further northward to interact interact with that cooler air mass to enhance the instability and the convective activity to a point where we see potentially a blizzard in the northeast by the time we approach March 19th and March 20th. But in the 18Z run, it's a different story. So let's take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly to show you exactly what I'm talking about, because that gives a better indication of where these factors will be located. So continuing to move forward right around March 19th, we see this is a low pressure system, Nala ridging blocking it from pretty much moving straight towards the northeast, and eventually these two low pressure systems will converge and we see a much more powerful storm as a result. As look at this, there isn't a lot of ridging to slow this thing down as it moves eastward, which is the reason why it moves very fast to the east. But to compare to the 18Z run, we see that that low pressure system moves quite a bit more slowly. We see that this storm system pretty much just parks right over New Mexico. There is a good deal of ridging just to the east of it, so it just stays over the same area. And this low pressure system doesn't move as far to the southwest, which prevents it from being able to erode the ridging that would be located right over the southern Midwest, to allow this to move a little bit faster to the east and create a more powerful storm. So of course, the key thing will be the amount of ridging, which will be determined by the strength as well as the trajectory at which this low pressure system enters the United States. If it moves a little bit further to the west, that would mean that I'll say it's definitely more likely to see a major northeast snowstorm, because that would be able to erode the ridging and create a stronger storm. But if this ridge were to be a little bit stronger and we see the storm system take more of a track straight towards the east, and it's of course less likely the snowstorm system will be as powerful. So we're definitely going to keep tabs on this over the next few days, as I'll certainly keep you guys updated. But as of right now, the GFS model wants to take a good area of around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall over the northeast right around Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So you definitely need, or the weekend after, or the week after next week, I should say, because it's still Saturday. So you definitely need to pay close attention to that possibility right around March 19th to the 20th, and potentially even beyond that point, because if we were to again take a look at where the jet stream will be located after the 19th, it's going to just stay cooler than average, and the GFS model is forecasting quite a bit of low pressure systems to move through the northeast, which I think could easily potentially develop into nor'easters. We see in the very long-term future, we see another snowstorm, but this is so far out. This is almost approaching April at this time, so take this with a huge grain of salt. But it's definitely interesting to see that the GFS model after the, I'll say, March 18th becomes very persistent on a pretty significant jet stream dip, which could cool down temperatures and enhance the instability enough for potentially another snowstorm to impact the northeast, even if the March 20th snowstorm doesn't necessarily come for fruition. So definitely stay tuned right around the late March timeframe, because I wouldn't be surprised if we see a pretty impactful snowstorm for the northeast and the Midwest. Now, if we were to take a look at the European model, it's showing a fairly similar forecast even as we approach the March 20th timeframe, where we're over 10 days out. At that point, we see that this storm system develops in a very similar fashion. We see a small clipper system move through, and it does bring some snowfall right up along the coast of northeast. It isn't a ton, but it's still very interesting that the European model also agrees that around this time period, we're going to see temperatures below average and a jet stream dip that's pretty pronounced. So there could easily be that possibility of a snowstorm right around that time period, or at least some sort of snow in the northeast for March 19th and March 20th. It's of course too early to say for certain what's going to happen, but definitely stay tuned for more updates. But that's it for now, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content, and I hope you guys have a great day.